Alan Raby, the skipper and owner of the dive boat Fabrina, went fishing up a river on the south side of New Britain Island, Papua New Guinea. At the head of the crystal clear, fast-flowing stream was an azure pool from which the river appeared to flow. He vowed to come back one day to explore the blue hole. 5 years later, he returned with an expedition to dive in the pool and to find the true source of the River Isis.
So we're having fun catching these spot-tailed bass and black bass, and we're going up the coast, and we got to Waterfall Bay, and the local guys came and had a bit of a chat to us, and they told us about this blue hole up the mouth of the river. So this blue hole thing. So went up this river, and I was tell that the river itself was different because it was crystal clear. It was mineral water, basically. So further up we got, and all of a sudden we come to these rapids and walked up the rapids, and the river, that's where it started, and it was just coming out of this hole. I want to be able to just see how deep it is. Obviously there's a cave system there, and that's why we got Jim Bowden along, and maybe we could be able to see what is down there. It's just a fun thing to do. So I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely, 100%. So and we'll see. We'll look and we will see.
Papua New Guinea is one of the planet's last frontiers. Journey's Start is the only town in the world to be built in the crater of an active volcano, Rabaul. From there, the expedition travels along the rarely visited south coast of New Britain Island, towards our destination, Waterfall Bay. Motoring through the night for a dawn arrival. The plan of the expedition really is to go where no man has gone before. Only instead of outer space, we will be exploring for the first time in human history a portion of inner space. We intend to be the first people ever to scuba dive in the jungle blue hole, which is the source of the River Isis, and to explore what we speculate must be a huge underground underwater cave system, from which the river emerges into the pool. No human being, living or dead, will ever have set eyes on what we aim to see and to discover on this expedition. Within minutes of Fabrina anchoring offshore, as if from nowhere, villagers arrive in their dugout canoes to trade. Often whole families. Sweets for the kids. Staple foods such as rice exchanged for the fresh fruit and vegetables on which we will live during the expedition. The stern of the boat becomes a floating market stall. It's a trade that will take place every day of our stay. And there are also more exotic trade items offered, even rare orchids. While trading continues on the back deck, on the bow of Fabrina, Alan and Jim plan the expedition upriver, and hopefully Jim's penetration of what must be a cave system, the source of the river, deep in the jungle. Jim is one of the most experienced deep cave divers in the world. Until shortly before the expedition, he had for many years been world record holder for the deepest dive ever made on open circuit scuba.
Then we walked over this hill.
Alan tells Jim of his own first encounter with the pool.
What looked like to me to be a sinkhole. So then I came back down to the river. The sinkhole was beautiful blue, by the way. It was just crystal clear. And then I went back down to the river. Then I went up the rapids to what I believed to be another sinkhole, which was the source of the river. It turned out to be the same hole. But anyway, I had to get in the water. So I remember I went back to the sinkhole over the hill, and I tried to climb down the trees and stuff like that to get in there, and the branch broke, and I ended up going for a swim sooner than I thought. And then I got back up the side of the river, up the side of the crater, then went back up the rapids, and then I dived into the hole from the rapids, and it was just wonderful. There was just fish coming out everywhere, spot-tailed bass and black bass and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, I thought to myself right there and then that I had to come back and dive this place. Just wanted to do it. And that's why you're here, Jim.
Absolutely.
Hey?
Absolutely.
I'm glad you could bloody make it.
I'm glad to be here.
All right then.
This is an experience.
Yes, I think we should do that. Get going straight away.
But before we can dive the pool, there is local protocol to observe. The blue hole is in the territory of the closest village downstream, and we must seek the permission of the village chieftain, the big man. Papua New Guinea is a tribal-based society. There are more than 800 languages still in daily use in this astonishingly diverse nation. That's over 1/3 of all the languages in the world spoken in just one country. This village speak a completely different language to the village on the other side of the river. But almost all speak Pidgin, a phonetic language devised by the first traders to visit Papua New Guinea in the 18th century. While they wait for Big Man's arrival, Digger explains to Jim the men's house.
That's the fire they light on the middle, and then they tell stories inside here, and they sleep here. Just only the men.
There is barely a trace of the 21st century, of plastic, metal, paper. Almost everything in the village comes from the jungle or the river. It's a simple subsistence existence, as far removed from what we regard as normal as can be conceived possible. Dickie Doyle, who spent his whole life in Papua New Guinea, has come along as translator and to smooth the way. Big Man has been head of the village for many years, and respects must be paid. Dickie having introduced Jim, it's important for Big Man to establish his own importance. And he does it by telling of the boundaries of his village's land in every direction. From the bend in the river to the big tree, deep into the jungle towards the distant hills. Big Man also recalls other white visitors to the village.
He knew all the names of the white men that were here. I'm glad I loaded some fast.
So now at last, it's time to take our first look at the blue hole. In Papua New Guinea's equivalent of the job centre, local men have gathered on the sandbar at the mouth of the river in the hope of a day's wages. Cash jobs are scarce in this remote area. Alan's got to be diplomatic and walk a fine line. There are several villages along the coast and up the river, and he must maintain a careful balance in sharing jobs among them all to keep everyone happy. Villagers pause from their work clearing gardens in the forest, tipped off by the unusual sound of an outboard engine in the river. A sound probably not heard since Alan's last visit. None of the local craft rely on engines. As the expedition heads upriver, the value of local knowledge quickly becomes clear, steering us through the deepest channels in the river. Though even with the best local knowledge, it's sometimes too shallow to use the engine, and we must punt.
Can you take the prop off?
No, I can't. I don't have his partners with me.
And another hazard is the thick freshwater river grass, choking the propeller.
Oh, the knife won't help. That'll just help.
Finally, the 25 horsepower engine gives way to manpower to haul us through the thickest sections.
Okay? Yeah, clear.
Back under engine power, we encounter our first obstacle in the river, the rapids. We manage to navigate the boat over the first set of rapids, but beyond lie further, steeper and faster flowing sections. There seems to be no option but to leave the boats and hike through the forest to see if the blue hole can be accessed that way rather than up the rapids. The local guides clear us a path and find their own rewards.
Beetle nut, yeah.
Chewing beetle nut is a habit common throughout Papua New Guinea.
Beetle nut.
Mixed with lime, it produces a mild narcotic effect and a permanently stained mouth. We press on through the hot, humid jungle, and then the first tantalizing sight of the blue hole, glimpsed through the forest. Calm, tranquil, mysterious, inviting. But how are we to get our heavy dive gear up to it to start our exploration? Alan has a plan.
Want a road from the river, like the easiest route, down. Where we went down there before it's relatively easy, but it's not. When we get down to the bottom, it's not a good place to get in the water because lots of snags. Okay, so maybe find another route down. Okay. And you okay? You guys in charge. You stay here with the guys. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. And I'll bring some food up later. Okay.
Yep.
When we come back. All right. But start. I think the first thing we do is start making a good track down into the crater itself.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
From here, and then work your way back to the river so that it's nice, easy path, okay? Okay, all right. You keep all the boys here, okay? Okay? And
It's going to take the workers the rest of the day to hack a track through the jungle. So leaving Digger behind to supervise the local labour force, Alan and other team members head back to Fabrina for supplies. All of us are tantalised by our first sight of the tranquil, deep blue pool in the middle of a distant jungle, whose secrets we have travelled from every corner of the planet to uncover. We head back to our floating base Fabrina to prepare for tomorrow's assault on the blue hole. Day 3, and early in the morning it's back upriver again. Today we must devise a system to get our gear past the rapids and up to the blue hole so we can start diving there. Alan's road idea has had to be abandoned. The near vertical sides of the pool have proved too steep and too sheer. We're going to have to find another route. Approaching the rapids, the current picks up and the hazards are apparent. The team are using 2 boats to travel the river, the larger fiberglass boat and the tinny, which made of aluminium is smaller and lighter. But this is as far as the fully loaded boats can get. We still have absolutely no idea of how we're going to get the equipment past the apparently insurmountable barrier of the rapids. Andy has an idea.
Take all the dive gear off and get to the little bay over there.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 of us or something pulling the boat up to that little bay, and that's where we load everything in, and then make a rope system around the corner over here. Because we can't get it up here, it's too dangerous. You're going to lose half the equipment over here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
His plan? Empty of all equipment, the light aluminium tinny could maybe be dragged up the rapids and then reloaded again for the final leg to the blue hole. For the first experiment, the boat is emptied of every single item of gear. If the plan fails and the boat capsizes, valuable equipment could be lost. Everybody pitches in to manhandle each piece of equipment around the rapids. Underfoot, the jagged volcanic rock is sharp and slippery, though no problem for the barefoot local labourers.
Okay.
Even the engine is removed. It would be a disaster for the expedition if it were damaged while transiting the rapids.
Ronnie, a little fuck up at the strong.
The crew then manhandle the tinny, inch by inch, against the flow of the rapids. It's a good job the aluminium hull's tough. A fiberglass boat would probably have been cracked by the impact of the jagged rocks. The plan has worked so far. The rapids are almost conquered. But it's a daunting thought that all this water is gushing out of the cave system that we have come to discover and explore. With the tinny in the calm of a back eddy, Andy and Digger get to work setting up a rope system to traverse the final stage of the rapids. It's not an easy job. The current is strong enough to sweep a man off his feet and tumble him right back down over the rapids. The water is surprisingly cold, a clear sign that it has never been warmed by the hot tropical sun, and that from the cold mountain peaks, the river has been underground for the whole of its course until surfacing here, deep in the jungle. With the ropes in place, Andy designs a pulley system to haul the tinny the rest of the way up to the pool.
Let's try it first. We lose that rope there. We connect that big rope with the back side. Yeah. And use my 2 carabiners to hook it into that lines. So we're safe, and with the rest we just pull it up.
The first signs from the pool are promising.
Very clear out there. Not like yesterday. Yesterday was a little murky. Now it's very, very clear.
Andy now has another tricky task to accomplish. Climbing down the almost sheer sides of the cliffs surrounding the pool, he will try to take a rope across the pool to the only area where a stream has cut a slight valley, from which divers can access the water with all their equipment.
Bye-bye, Nelson.
See you, Nelson. Have fun.
Helped by the ship's engineer Nelson, they set the first rope across the outflow from the pool. The strength of the flow of the water is clear. But eventually, the ropes are in place. Meanwhile, Dickie and Alan are finding out some interesting facts about the pool. It's a haunted place, a place Masalai.
Something like this. Here's Leah. Leah, no. You got some place story along this la hole or?
Story low.
Yeah.
Resla, masalah ye.
Masalai where?
Mi arun dina ye tibin kam.
Yeah,
that's the muscle.
Itu abin tesla nak claim ay long.
Ah.
Lundina.
Yeah. That's the Masalai.
Ay masalah.
Ah. He's saying there's a spirit here.
Yeah.
Eh? The spirit lifted. Now, Masalai stop still you no God?
Masalah.
Yeah.
Story.
The story.
Story long.
The story tassel.
Story.
Yeah.
Long masalah ye ti
Yeah.
dream man.
Yeah, dream. Okay.
Long tumbu na blam people sa walk on stone.
Okay.
Sa walk on time yo tumbu na blam people. People kono ni ngaman.
Before.
Before, you know, got this
Before.
like Mina belong this water. Okay. Business.
Local legend speaks of it being haunted by two spirits, named Rivula and Sivula. These demons live in the deep, dark heart of the pool. If anyone enters their realm, the spirits will drag them down to the very centre of the earth. In living memory, two women fell into the pool and were never seen again, only their clothing floating on the inscrutable surface of the water. For this reason, locals steer well clear of the pool, never fishing or even paddling in it. But these ancient legends won't deter Alan. He's come too far and waited too long for his chance to explore the blue hole.
All right, well, we'll go and bloody jump in the bloody pool, I suppose, see what's there. Okay. I'm going to go and do it. Give me a bloody hand here.
With ropes in place, the equipment can now go back in the tinny for the final leg upriver to the pool. It's now far easier to transport equipment up, and this problem overcome, the exploration proper can start. No one has any idea what to expect. The pool has never before been dived, explored or surveyed. No one even knows how deep it is. The tinny fully loaded, the crew haul it up to the spot we have christened base camp. The small piece of ground on the otherwise sheer sides of the pool that will serve as the access point for divers to enter and leave the water. Once unloaded, the tinny is steered back down the rapids for the next batch of equipment.
Okay, keep going.
Though 60 years old, Jim's enthusiasm is boundless. He can't be bothered to wait for the gear to be hauled up by the crew.
I want to ready for a beer and a cigarette. Have to do much more of this, it'd have to be a scotch and a cigarette.
Jim is ready to dive into the unknown, and only one thing is certain. The whole mass of moving water that forms the Isis River pours from somewhere in the hole. So there must be an underground river flowing through a deep cave system and spilling out into the pool.
What is that, a vine over there?
And now the moment has come. The first ever dive in the pool to try and locate the cave system we know must be down there somewhere. As Jim descends, the first amazing revelation is the depth of the hole. Though the river is at most a couple of metres deep, the hole plunges a massive 50 metres below sea level. The sides are almost sheer, and the water is icy cold. At the very bottom lie the trunks of huge trees that have over the years fallen from the forest into the hole. Jim searches among the fallen logs in the hope of finding an entrance to the cave system, but with no luck. At this depth, and using just one dive tank, his time exploring the bottom of the pool is limited. Jim has become the very first human being to scuba dive in this remote, landlocked jungle blue hole. But on his first dive, the source of the river eludes him. The spirits of the jungle blue hole appear reluctant to give up their secrets too easily. After Jim's failure, the rest of the team spread across the hole to try to find the river source. The sheer sides of the pool are impenetrable, so it must be in the deepest part of the hole. Eventually, with everyone running low on air, at the very bottom of the pool, and hidden beneath some more fallen trees, we spot what appears to be the entrance to a cave system. The steady outward flow of water also points to this being at least one of the origins, if not the principal source, of the ISIS. But before we can go any further, disaster strikes. Or are the spirits of the pool warning us off, trying to keep their ancient secrets safe? While filming the cave entrance at below 50 metres, and this is the very first time that any human being has ever seen this cave, there is a loud bang that resonates throughout the pool. For a few seconds there's confusion, potentially very dangerous at these extreme depths. Digger rushes across to see what's happened. The camera housing has instantly become heavy and filled with water. It seems that the thick glass front port of the housing, through which I'd been filming moments earlier, has spontaneously imploded. It takes two of us to bring the ruined unit to the surface. The damage is totally inexplicable. Even after returning home and having the housing examined by the factory, there is still no apparent reason for this to have happened. But it's a major setback. Only the first dive, and already one camera down. As we rise towards the surface, I can't help wonder whether maybe the spirits are indeed sending us a message. Michelle captures the moment of dejection for posterity. Early next morning, back on board for Brina, Fionn carefully prepares the remaining housing. The team then head back across the calm seas of Waterfall Bay to the river entrance. Despite yesterday's setback for our film crew, other members of the team had found what appears to be a second promising cave entrance, and have already set ropes and hang tanks to facilitate the investigation of the cave. So everyone is keen to get back up to the blue hole to continue our exploration. Heavily laden with equipment, the tinny ploughs its way upriver, following the team in the larger boat. But today the river is running particularly fast, far faster than yesterday. Perhaps a rainstorm in the distant mountains has swollen the flow of water. We have to force our way upstream in places where we passed easily just the day before.
How's that other boat going to make it through there?
With all the gear? Yeah, that's a good question.
There is no way the overloaded tinny can make it upstream against this flood. So dropping off the team members, the crew head back downstream to take some of the equipment from the tinny. Everyone wonders if this increased water flow will endanger the exploration of the cave system. With the cave entrance being below 50 metres deep, already beyond what is recognised as a safe or advisable depth for divers using air, any extra hazard could be the difference between success and failure. Now we've located the tunnel entrance, it's time to make a penetration, to see how far the cave system stretches. Jim waits while his equipment is brought up to base camp. Every member of the team is anxious about how the day will go, but Jim is particularly thoughtful. Today, the success or failure of the expedition rests on his shoulders. And he knows only too well the risks involved in exploring unknown cave systems deep underwater. Over the years, he has lost very close friends in deep cave diving penetrations. Assembly of his equipment follows a careful routine that he has developed over many years, though not often has he had to do it waist deep in water in the middle of a jungle. He's opted to use a twin set, 2 dive tanks harnessed together. There are 2 reasons for this. Firstly, it provides him with a greater air supply. At the depths where he will be exploring, air is consumed fast. A tank that would last an hour at the surface can be used up within just 10 minutes at 50 metres, due to the differences in pressure at that depth. And secondly, using 2 completely independent systems means that if one fails, he has a backup system, which could make the difference between life and death. The rest of the expedition team watch his final preparations from any vantage point we can find at base camp. Word seems to have spread by the jungle telegraph. All around the pool, villagers are gathered at every vantage point to watch what's happening. Ropes are in place to guide Jim down and for him to ascend after the dive, with a hang tank should he be running short of air. The support divers and film crew will accompany Jim to the cave entrance, but he will carry out this first penetration alone. He must dive fast to maximise his air supply. Determinedly, without hesitation, he heads down towards the cave entrance. Jim picks his way through the jumble of tree trunks and logs. Then, alone, he disappears from sight into the tunnel entrance. It's a simple but awesome fact that in the history of our planet, no human being has ever entered the caves from which the underground aquifers flow. But again, the mischievous spirits seem to be jealously guarding the secrets of the cave system. The first entrance he penetrates turns out to be a dead end, and he emerges to try the second entrance. Again he disappears from sight, but he's already wasted valuable air in the first cave. Outside, we all wait anxiously. We're like an underwater paparazzi. Michelle and Ty with their stills cameras and strobes, plus our film crew and the support divers. But with only single scuba tanks rather than double tanks like Jim's, we eventually have to head for shallower water. At the depth of the cave entrance, below 50 metres, our air is being consumed at 6 times the rate that it would be used up near the surface. The first sign of Jim's return to the cave entrance is a jacuzzi of air bubbles. Eventually he emerges and starts a slow ascent to the surface. He has to spend up to half an hour decompressing, which means hanging in the shallows, allowing excess nitrogen to be released slowly from his bloodstream before it's safe for him to surface.
Hiya.
What happened there?
It's fantastic. I think I got the wrong hole at first. I'll admit to being a little confused because I went in one and it definitely was a dead end after a ways. Yeah. But then there was a against the wall, and I figured, well, that was one you were telling me about. Yeah. And I crunched, and I bet the tanks look like hell, do they? No. I've been crunching and finally got through and tied off the line. So it's knock them out. It is really clear, crystal clear in there. And they're white walls, just real chalk white walls. Your light just goes forever, and it's really pretty. It's definitely a going system. I think it's going to take some dead ends back up, go around. But I think you can get through. I think we can get through there. And I decided, it was pretty close and tight. So I came on and exited there because I felt like that might take some time. You could get stuck in there real easy. Oh, yeah. It was real hard to get in, and I got out though easier than I thought I would. I was pretty much shot, deco-wise, and it's cold.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the one thing we do, we get Jim first on the surface. We all warm up a little bit, and then we decide what we're going to do next. Right?
I think in order to really successfully break this thing, crack the puzzle, so to speak, it's going to take a planned and concerted effort. Just at it. I think it'll pop if you get down here with the options of side mounts and better wetsuit protection.
There was?
It was. Yeah, I just went in the wrong hole.
Back at base camp, Jim gets a chance to warm up and a hot cup of tea. Even in the sultry jungle, the fire is welcome after being immersed in the cold depths of the pool. And it helps to keep away mosquitoes. Below us, the silent pool still has many secrets to reveal. The locals have warned us of puck-pucks in the river, crocodiles, but they generally seem to hang out on the sandbank at the river mouth. So we decide to take a drift downstream from the pool to see what lies under the sometimes placid, sometimes fast-flowing surface of the Isis. In the centre, the riverbed is scoured by the fast flow of the water, Huge trees that have fallen from the forest are gradually pushed downstream by the force of the current. In other places, thick beds of river grass bend with the flow. In back eddies and by the banks, the roots of the jungle soak up the river water. Trees and bushes grow thick and luxuriant, and rafts of weed float on the surface. The river is the main artery, supporting all life along its banks. There are few tracks through the almost impenetrable jungle, so it's the only highway linking the villages. It's also the source of drinking water for both animals and people. This kid, filling kettles for his grandmother, has never before seen a diver, so my sudden appearance must have been to him like a river monster, or maybe a spirit from the pool, rising from the deep. Inconsolable, he can't be persuaded back to the water's edge to fill the kettles, so Granny has to do it, plugging the spouts to avoid spillage. It's a long walk back to their village, and what she can carry back from the river is their only source of fresh drinking water. That evening, back on board Fabrina, Jim, Digger and Andy study footage that Andy has taken while scouting the cave entrance. Jim has a difficult decision to make. After a distance, the tunnel had narrowed, and with twin tanks he was unable to explore any further. If he wants to go beyond the narrow passage, he can use only one tank, giving him just half the air supply, which will be rapidly used up at that depth. And of course, he will have no backup should any part of his equipment fail. But with just one more day left in which to explore the cave system, he makes a crucial decision.
My inclination right now would be to go single tanks. I'd like to rig a stage that any of us could use. You know, I can clip it on and then we could take it right to that point, unclip it, leave it, and then at least pop through and just take a look. Because we're not, you know, so it'd be a limit to what I could do even if I get through there on doubles. I think the main thing we want to see is just if it keeps going.
What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
I think we've narrowed it down. This is the most likely place. And just go boogie. Let's see what we can find. See where it goes. Yeah, just have fun tomorrow. It's our last day. You know, I can't see us bottoming out the thing anyway. And that'll give us an idea. If it levels out and starts going horizontal, then that would offer a lot of potential for later, you know.
In readiness for the single tank penetration of the cave system, as a backup, the team have hung a spare tank at the mouth of the tunnel, just in case. Ropes have been laid to lead Jim to the correct cave entrance. and it's been decided that Andy and Digger will follow him into the caves as an added security precaution. Jim double-checks with Digger and Andy that it's the right hole. He doesn't want to be frustrated again by the spirits of the pool. But they are all taking big risks. With only one tank and one breathing system each, they are without what cave divers term redundancy, a spare system to fall back on should their primary system fail. Though they'll all be in the cave together, in the narrow and tight confines of the tunnel, it's unlikely that in an emergency they could be sure of reaching each other in time to provide help. For the final time, the spirits strike. Digger gets stuck in the narrow passage. Only keeping calm saves his life. He emerges from the cave without his buoyancy control jacket. Trapped in the tight confines of the tunnel, he had managed to wriggle out of it, while of course keeping the regulator in his mouth for its vital air supply. Only when he has escaped from the tunnel does he manage to get the jacket back on. Jim eventually emerges and starts his long, slow ascent to the surface.
It's one of the last places on this big blue marble that we live on that you can go where no one's ever been. You know, that there hadn't been sonar sounded, satellite photographed, that someone walked there. You can pretty much find virgin space. So it's the last true exploration on a smaller scale, on an individual scale. And that's always excited me. You know, it's not likely I'd ever get to the moon or anything like that. So I'm very fortunate to live in a time where I can still find pristine and untouched places underground.
And now the other members of the team get their own last chance to penetrate the tunnel and to say their farewells to the jungle blue hole.
Caves like this, you don't fully explore them in a week. There are caves, there's systems very similar to this that are still challenging explorers in other countries that have had years of exploration. A lot of these can go for miles underground, and you have to accept the fact there is a point in which your technology may bring you up short.
Maybe the spirits were guarding the ancient secrets of the blue hole. What we have learnt is that a vast underground cave system, possibly stretching many miles inland, does indeed exist in the heart of the jungle on New Britain Island. On our increasingly crowded planet, we have ventured to one of the rare remaining magical and intriguing places where no man has ever been before. But it will probably be many years before another expedition can be launched to explore deeper into the caves. Until then, only the spirits know the secrets of the underground river. that feeds into the jungle blue hole, from which the river Isis flows.
Ikini tok lamban banyai